My name is Jack Carter. I was born with a silver tongue. They call me the king of Simps. My alarm goes off at 5:30 a.m. sharp. It's not loud, but it beats against my nerves like a war drum. I bolt upright in bed, no desire to hit snooze, my movements practiced and precise. Dressed, teeth brushed, face splashed. 3 minutes, flat. I grab the empty thermos from my desk and bolt from the dorm. The early morning campus is deserted, the wind whistling past my ears. My target is the campus corner store. I have to get there first to snag the specific brand of organic oat milk that Molly Peterson, the sweetheart of the chemistry department, demands for her morning latte. If I'm late, it's gone. "Hey, Sal, you're in early," I say, already familiar with the guy unloading the dairy truck behind the store. Sal doesn't even look up, just jerks his thumb toward a fresh crate. "Yours." Usual spot. I pull a 20 out of my pocket, slap it into his hand, and grab the carton. I unscrew the cap of my professional-grade thermos and pour in the milk. Then I pull a portable digital thermometer from my pocket and stick it inside. The numbers flicker, finally settling at 48.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Nope, too cold. Molly told me once that she only drinks her lattes between 125 and 130 degrees. It's the perfect temperature to kickstart her day without scalding her delicate tongue. I take a mini immersion heater from my backpack, stick it in the thermos, and stare intently at the thermometer screen. 125.1, 126.8, 128.5. Stop. Perfect. I screw the lid on tight, tuck the thermos inside my jacket, and jog toward the chemistry department's all-female dorm. Hanging the thermos on the special hook I installed next to her door, I send a quick text. "Molly, your morning boost has been delivered." Done. I glance at my watch. 6:15 a.m. Right on schedule. Without pausing, I turn and sprint toward my next target, the main library. The library doesn't open until 7, but by 6:30, a long line of grade-obsessed grinders has already formed. I, however, am the king of the grinders. My objective is the third-floor window seat, the hallowed ground that belongs to Clara Vance, the ethereal goddess of the literature department. In that exact spot, at 9:30 in the morning, the sunlight hits the page just right, bright enough to read, but soft enough to be warm. It took me a week of reconnaissance missions, hiding in different corners of the library, to pinpoint this optimal reading vortex for her. At 6:59, the library doors slowly swing open. I launch myself inside like a cheetah, making a beeline for the third floor. By the time I place a copy of Walden, wrapped in a custom craft paper cover, on her designated seat, I can just begin to hear the footsteps of other students behind me. I pat the book's cover, as if completing a sacred ritual. I send a text to Clara. "Clara, the sun's out today. Your seat is waiting." Mission accomplished. I check my watch. 7:20 a.m. Right on schedule. I walk calmly toward my next battlefield, the debate team's practice room. When I arrive, Talia, the team's brilliant and terrifying strategist, we call her the Empress, is pacing the room anxiously. She sees me like a drowning woman sees a life raft, but her eyes hold no gratitude, only the matter-of-fact entitlement of a queen addressing her subject. "Jack, I'm stuck," the Empress says, running a hand through her hair in frustration. The modern application of social contract theory in corporate ethics. I can't find my angle. I know it's saying nothing. I know that words are useless right now. I walk to the center of the room, lie flat on the floor, and fold my hands over my stomach. Good. The Empress nods, satisfied. She walks over, slips off her heels, and gently places one foot on the small of my back, closing her eyes. This is my third service, her personal meditation platform. The Empress claims she can only achieve true mental clarity when she's grounded on something absolutely solid and reliable. And I am that solid, reliable thing. Feeling the pressure of her foot on my back, I feel no sense of humiliation. Instead, a wave of calm washes over me. Let them call me a simp. Let them call me pathetic. They don't get it. This isn't simping. This is a series of precision investments, a portfolio of bespoke services catering to different archetypes of perfection. Molly is the sweet girl next door. She requires constant, meticulous material care. Clara is the untouchable ice queen. She pursues a connection of the mind, a silent, spiritual understanding. The Empress is the ruthless tyrant. She enjoys absolute obedience and control. There are 3 final bosses on 3 separate paths, and I am the only player skilled enough to take on all of them at once. The thrill of living on this knife's edge, the art of managing my time with such pinpoint precision, it's intoxicating. I'm not just some guy in the friend zone. I am a myth moving between 3 goddesses, the true uncrowned king of this campus. I've got it. The pressure on my back disappears. The Empress's voice is electric with a sudden breakthrough. I slowly sit up and watch her eyes gleam as she scribbles furiously on the whiteboard. A small smile plays on my lips. Mission complete. I'm about to slip out and finally grab some breakfast for myself when my phone starts vibrating manically in my pocket. I pull it out. 3 new messages have popped up on my screen. Molly, Jackie, the new rom-com comes out tonight. Want to go see it with me, please? Cute face emoji Clara. The seller with the rare first edition got back to me. Tonight, 7 o'clock, Eastgate. The Empress. Team Victory dinner tonight. 7 o'clock. You're on logistics. Attendance is mandatory. 3 messages. 3 non-negotiable invitations. 2 of them at the exact same time. I stare at the screen for a long moment. Then I smile. Interesting. They've upped the difficulty. Whatever. I can handle it. After seeing the 3 texts, I don't feel a shred of panic. Instead, a familiar excitement bubbles up inside me. It's like a gamer who's mastered normal mode and finally unlocked hell difficulty. The real challenge was just beginning. Friday night was a problem for later, but my afternoon dailies couldn't be missed. At 2:30 p.m., like clockwork, it was time for Molly's afternoon tea. I opened up DoorDash, my fingers flying her favorite boba spot. Taro milk tea, 100% sweet, double taro balls. I've ordered this combination hundreds of times. I could do it in my sleep. Order, screenshot done. I clicked on my pinned conversation, ready to send the screenshot with a sweet little caption. Babe, your afternoon treat is on its way. I typed it out and hit send without a second thought. But the instant the message went through, my eyes widened in horror. Oh no, I sent it to the wrong person. The pinned chat window wasn't Molly's bright, smiling selfie. It was Clara's profile picture. A stark, unchanging photo of a snow-capped mountain. My brain short-circuited. It's over. This was a fatal error, the kind that could bring my entire carefully constructed persona crashing down. To Clara, I was the soulmate, the intellectual equal who understood her on a spiritual level. We talked about Nietzsche and Schopenhauer, about poetry and the sublime. Babe, afternoon treat. These sticky sweet words were completely alien to the character I played for her. Worse, it would immediately make her suspect that I had another client. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering against my ribs. 1 second, 2 seconds. A single, cold, emotionless symbol appeared in the chat. That one question mark was like an ice pick, shattering all my hopes. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. What do I do? How do I explain this? It was too late to unsend it. Admit it? That was self-sabotage. All my work down the drain. My mind raced, faster than it ever had before. Calm down, Jack. You're a master of time management, a crisis expert. I've got it. I took a deep breath, my fingers flying across the keyboard. Sorry, Clara, wrong person. My little cousin asked me to order her a drink. She's in that super sweet stuff. I took a screenshot for her, and my finger slipped. The excuse was flimsy, but it was the only one I had. I even added the detail about my little cousin to flesh out the character, trying to make it more believable. Sent. The wait that followed was agonizing. Every second felt like an eternity. I was betting on Clara's personality. Given her aloof nature, she probably wouldn't bother asking follow-up questions about something so trivial. Finally, my phone buzzed. I held my breath as I opened the message. It was a single word. Okay. Seeing that word, I let out a huge sigh of relief, slumping back in my chair as if I'd just run a marathon. She didn't press it. It seemed like I was in the clear. I quickly copied the screenshot and the babe message and sent it to its intended target, Molly. Molly replied almost instantly with a happy sticker and a message. You're the best, Jackie. Love you. But looking at her text, I felt no joy. A strange, unprecedented anxiety wrapped around my heart like a vine. That cold question mark and that non-committal okay kept replaying in my mind. Did she really believe me? Or did she just not care enough to call me out? I was on edge for the rest of the afternoon. Later that evening, I was scrolling through my Instagram feed out of habit. And then I saw it. A new post that made the blood in my veins run cold. It was from Clara. She only posted about once a month. There was no caption, just a picture. The photo showed a slender, pale hand holding a cup of milk tea. It was the exact same taro milk tea with double taro balls that I had ordered for Molly. And just beneath the photo, in the location tag, were two small words. Trying new things. I stared at the picture, my back instantly drenched in a cold sweat. She knew. She had to know. This wasn't forgiveness. It was a warning. She was telling me, in her own silent way, that she had seen right through my lie. For the first time, a crack had appeared in the perfect world I had built. Clara's Instagram post was a thorn lodged deep in my mind. For the first time, I felt a genuine sense of dread. Not the annoyance of a schedule conflict, but the pure terror of losing control. I kept telling myself it had to be a coincidence. Maybe she just felt like trying boba tea. That was it. But my gut was screaming that it wasn't that simple. The next 2 days were spent walking on eggshells. When I delivered Molly's latte, I found myself subconsciously scanning the area for suspicious eyes. When I went to the library to save Clara's seat, I couldn't help but wonder what she was really thinking when she saw the book. When I served as the Empress's meditation platform, I could almost feel a new, judgmental weight in her stance. The three separate worlds I had so carefully constructed seemed to be converging at an invisible, dangerous intersection, and I was standing right in the middle of it. Friday came all too soon. Judgment Day. I stared at the 3 messages on my phone that would decide my fate, lost in thought. Go to the movies with Molly? Go to the East Gate to buy the rare book for Clara? Or go to the restaurant to manage logistics for the Empress's victory dinner? 3 events, all at 7 o'clock. For the first time, I felt stretched too thin, completely overwhelmed. My mind went into overdrive, trying to find a perfect solution. Just drop one of them. The thought barely formed before I crushed it. No, my career as a simp was built on a foundation of perfect service and unwavering availability. A single refusal would be a stain on my professional reputation. Besides, Clara's boba tea incident was a blaring alarm bell, reminding me that they might already be suspicious. Any unusual behavior now would light the fuse. I had to find a way to bend time. I decided to go on the offensive to try and pry open this deadlock with a few carefully placed lies. My first call was to the Empress. Talia, all the supplies and drinks for the dinner tonight have been arranged. Everything's set. I started by reporting my progress, projecting an air of diligence. Get to the point, the Empress said, her voice as crisp as ever. Well, something urgent came up at home. I might be a little late, maybe around 8, I said, choosing my words carefully. The phone was silent for a few seconds. Fine, she said, much to my surprise. But if you're 1 minute late, you know the consequences. I hung up, letting out a long breath. I bought myself an hour. Next up, Molly. For the sweet girl, I had to use a softer touch. Hey, I already bought the movie tickets, best seats in the house. I texted, attaching a screenshot of the purchase. But I might be a tiny bit late. Something came up with work. Can you go in first and wait for me? Molly replied instantly, no. I want you here for the whole thing. Just finish up your work quickly. I'll wait for you outside the theater. She followed it with a pouting emoji. My stomach tightened. That door was shut. That left Clara. With Clara, any excuse would sound pathetic. Honesty and negotiation were my only options. Clara, about the book exchange at 7. Is there any way the seller could meet a little earlier or later? I have a sudden conflict. Clara's reply was short, but it was as immovable as a mountain. The seller is a retired professor. It's the only time he is free before he leaves the country to visit family. It's now or never for this book. My heart sank. The movie started at 7. The book exchange was at 7. The victory dinner could wait until 8. That meant I had to be in 2 places at once, the campus Eastgate and the downtown Cineplex. A perfect, inescapable trap. I sat on my chair in my dorm room, staring out the window, my mind a chaotic mess. For the first time, I began to question my entire philosophy. What was I even chasing? Was it the thrill of the game, or did I genuinely enjoy their dependence on me? Right now, all I felt was the crushing weight of it all. Just as I was spiraling, an unknown number called my phone. I answered with a frown. Hello. Hello. Is this Jack? Yeah, who is this? I'm Molly's roommate. The voice chirped. I'm just calling to give you a little heads up. A heads up about what? I felt a pit form in my stomach. Jack, where are you really going tonight? The girl's tone was dripping with amusement. Our entire dorm has a betting pool on you. I've got $50 saying you'll stand Molly up. Don't make me lose, okay? Molly's roommate's call was like a bucket of ice water dumped over my head. We have a betting pool on you. The words echoed in my ears. My entire operation. To them, it was just a game, something to bet on. For the first time, I felt a surge of humiliation. Just kidding, don't take it seriously, she was still laughing on the other end. But seriously, Molly's waiting for you at the theater. You should hurry. She hung up. I stared at my pale reflection in the dark screen of my phone. I couldn't lose. I wasn't their clown. I was Jack Carter, the master of time management. I took a deep breath, the fire of determination reigniting in my eyes. The more impossible the situation, the more my skills would shine. A bold, high-risk plan began to form in my mind. A 7 o'clock movie, a 7 o'clock book exchange. The Cineplex was downtown, the East Gate was on the edge of campus. At least a 20-minute drive between them. I couldn't be in both places at once, but I could create the illusion of being in both places at once. Here was the plan. At 6:50, I'd drive to the Cineplex. I wouldn't go inside. I'd just show up at the entrance so Molly could see me. I'd tell her a major client just called me back to the office to sign an emergency contract, but I'd be back for the second half of the movie. She trusted me enough to buy that. Then, I'd race back to campus for the 7 o'clock exchange at the East Gate. Finally, from there, I'd go straight to the restaurant for the victory dinner, reporting to the Empress before 8. It was a plan of interlocking deceptions, extremely risky, but with a high chance of success. It would test not only my scheduling skills, but my acting chops as well. I changed into a slightly more professional-looking outfit, grabbed the canvas tote bag with the Literary Society's logo that I'd prepared for Clara, and sprinted out of the dorm. Everything was going according to my script. At 6:52, I arrived at the downtown Cineplex. I spotted Molly immediately, waiting anxiously near the entrance. I composed my features into a mask of exhaustion and apology and walked toward her. Molly, I am so sorry. My words were cut short by a booming voice from behind me. Jack, what are you doing here? My entire body went rigid. I turned around slowly. A tall guy in our debate team jacket was staring at me with a huge, surprised grin on his face. It was Chris, one of the Empress's most loyal followers. Talia said you had a family emergency and we're going to be late, Chris said, walking over and clapping me on the shoulder. We thought you were going to miss the start of the dinner. Come on, the restaurant's right around the corner. Talia and the others are waiting. My brain blue-screened. Chris's appearance was a random grenade that had just blown my entire plan to smithereens. Molly's eyes darted between the two of us, her wide, expectant eyes now clouded with confusion. Jackie, who's this? He's a colleague from my internship. I stammered, my mind scrambling for a plausible lie. Internship? Chris looked baffled. Dude, when did you get an internship? We're on the same team. It was over. I looked at Chris's innocent, clueless face and felt a burning resentment. Just as I was trying to invent another lie to patch the gaping hole in my story, an even sharper voice cut in. Jack, I thought you had to go back to the office. I turned to see Molly's roommate, the one who had called me, standing with her arms crossed, a smirk on her face. Her eyes fell to the tote bag in my hand. Is your urgent office business carrying around a bag from the Literary Society to have a chance encounter with someone from the debate team? Her words were a scalpel, expertly slicing through my web of lies. Chris was even more confused now. The Literary Society? Jack, when did you join them? Molly's face was slowly losing all its color. She wasn't stupid. The debate team, the Literary Society, and herself. 3 seemingly unrelated threads, now all tied together by a single common denominator, me. I stood there, feeling like a clown stripped naked in the center ring. The air grew thick and heavy. As if on cue, my phone began to ring, loud and insistent. It was a call. The screen flashed with 2 words, the Empress. I didn't dare answer. A second later, a text message popped up. Chris just saw you at the Cineplex. Explain. Almost simultaneously, another message came in. It was from Clara. It's 7. Where are you? I looked at Molly's crestfallen face, heard the incessant buzzing from my pocket, and my mind went completely blank. The dominoes were falling. I muttered, "I'll explain later," and turned and fled, ignoring Molly's calls behind me, escaping the scene of my own implosion. I had no idea where I was going. I just walked aimlessly through campus. Finally, I found myself standing at the central crossroads in the heart of the university. From here, you could go in 3 different directions. One led to the dorms, one to the library, and one to the student union building. Once, these 3 paths represented the 3 worlds I so proudly commanded. Now, they were all forbidden territories. My phone finally went silent. I thought the storm had passed for a moment. Then the screen lit up. A message from the Empress, concise and imperious. "The quad. You have 10 minutes. Before I could even process it, a second message arrived. It was from Molly. "The quad. Now." And then a third. Clara's profile picture, above a few equally cold words. "I'm waiting for you in the quad. 10 minutes. 3 identical messages, like 3 death warrants, sealing my fate. I stood at the crossroads, looking toward the brightly lit central quad. I knew it wasn't a park. It was a tribunal built just for me. There was no point in running anymore. My myth had been shattered, but as the creator of that myth, I couldn't fall in the final act. I took a deep breath, shoved my phone back in my pocket, and started walking toward my own personal reckoning. Better to walk to the firing squad than be dragged to it. When I stepped into the quad, the atmosphere was even heavier than I had imagined. All 3 goddesses were there. They weren't standing together. Each had claimed a corner, forming a perfect equilateral triangle. I was walking into its center. Molly's eyes were red. She was clutching 2 movie tickets in her hand, the ones I had given her earlier, so she could go in first. Clara stood under a magnolia tree, the moonlight making her seem even more remote than usual. She held no book, just stood there silently, but her gaze carried more weight than any accusation. And the Empress was leaning against a Roman-style pillar, arms crossed, looking down at me with a faint, cold smile, as if admiring a drama she had personally directed. No one spoke. There were no opening questions. I walked into the middle of their triangle and stood my ground, waiting for the hurricane to hit. "Jack!" Molly was the first to speak, her voice thick with tears and a sense of betrayal. She held up the movie tickets. "Didn't you say you had an emergency at work?" I remained silent. Any explanation now would be pointless. Was his work at a debate team meeting? The Empress's voice floated over, laced with undisguised mockery. Molly's head snapped toward her, her eyes hostile. Just then, Clara, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, but it carried clearly to each of us. "No, I believe his work was at a bookstore that's open all night." The statement was cryptic, but made Molly and the Empress freeze. Clara's gaze swept past me, finally landing on Molly. "Molly, I heard you published a paper a few days ago. You mentioned Jack pulled an all-nighter helping you process data." Molly, taken aback, nodded instinctively. "Yes. So what?" "Nothing." Clara's tone was terrifyingly calm. "I'm just curious how one person can spend all night helping you with a paper, while also spending that same night waiting in line outside a used bookstore across town to buy me a first-edition copy of a book." Boom! The words detonated in Molly's mind. Her face went white as a sheet. She looked from me to Clara in utter disbelief. "What did you say?" The cold smile on the Empress's face froze. She looked between Clara and me with a newfound interest, as if she had discovered a far more entertaining hunt. "Interesting," the Empress said, clapping her hands softly as she pushed off the pillar. "So I'm not the only one, waiting in line for a book. How romantic." Her tone shifted, becoming sharp. "But the all-nighter you're both talking about. I seem to recall him spending it kneeling in my practice room, serving as my footstool while I rehearsed my arguments." "What?" This time, it was Molly who shrieked. She was completely lost. Processing data, waiting in line for a book, serving as a footstool. 3 entirely separate events, all happening at the same time, all involving the same person. This wasn't just cheating. This was something out of a science fiction novel. Looking at the absurd scene unfolding before me, I suddenly wanted to laugh. I realized the dynamic was shifting in a bizarre direction. Their anger was slowly deflecting from me, the sole perpetrator, and ricocheting among themselves. "A footstool for you." Molly stared at the Empress, as if hearing a story from another planet. He would never. He's such a good person. A good person? The Empress scoffed, as if it were the funniest joke she'd ever heard. You've never seen him kneeling at my feet, obedient as a dog. You're lying. Molly shot back. He brings me my latte at exactly 128 degrees. A 128-degree latte is nothing, Clara interjected coldly. He knows the exact window seat I like, with a sunlight at 9:30. M. Lands on the 17th line of the page. Sunlight. The Empress's voice rose. He knows from the way I shift my weight whether I need a glass of water or for him to shut up. Can either of you top that? My tribunal had, against all odds, morphed into a surreal competition. The point of contention was no longer my deception, but who had received the most premium, dedicated service, who had the most proof that Jack loves me the most. I stood in the eye of the storm, watching the three of them argue. A small crowd of students had gathered, drawn by the commotion. Someone raised a phone. A flash went off in the darkness. I was an animal in a zoo, a spectacle for everyone to watch. But I felt no shame. Instead, a strange, unprecedented feeling began to surge within me. Watching them fight, red-faced and furious, I realized for the first time that my service, it had value. In fact, its value was ridiculously high. I wasn't the servant chasing after them. Somehow, without me even realizing it, I had become the prize they were fighting over. I was the prize. That single thought cleared my mind, snapping me out of the chaos. I wasn't the lamb awaiting slaughter. I was the crown they were all trying to seize. So what was I afraid of? I was the director of this farce. They were the actors, and the crowd was the audience. It was time for the director himself to step on stage and announce a change in the rules. 128 degrees is the threshold at which milk protein remains most active without scalding the oral mucosa. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through their argument with the precision of a scalpel. The quad fell silent. Every eye, including those of the three women, was now fixed on me. I looked at Molly first, my voice calm. Everything I did for you was based on a needs analysis of your girl-next-door persona. It was a standardized service protocol. You were client. Molly stared, her mouth slightly open, having forgotten to cry. My gaze shifted to Claire. The 9:30 M. Sunlight has the lowest UV intensity and the warmest color temperature, making it ideal for a literary enthusiast engaged in prolonged periods of reading. You were client B. For the first time, a flicker of emotion crossed Claire's cool facade. Finally, I turned to the Empress. And the meditation platform. That's because you have mild scoliosis. Lying flat while you apply pressure to specific points on my back provides maximum relief to your lumbar nerves, stimulating cortical activity. You were client C. The Empress's crossed arms slowly fell to her sides. I finished and looked around at all of them. The anger and betrayal on their faces had been replaced by sheer shock and confusion. The onlookers were silent, as if they were attending a masterclass on the principles of the high-end service industry. So, I paused, delivering my conclusion. What exactly are you arguing about? You were merely 3 beta testers in my perfect service ecosystem. You were enjoying a VIP experience, custom-tailored to each of you. You should feel honored. Instead, you're here, acting like shoppers fighting over a clearance rack, and frankly, you're cheapening my brand. Every word I spoke was a hammer blow to their pride. The phrase clearance rack made the 3 campus queens flinch, their faces turning ugly. Molly's face was beet red. She wanted to argue, but knew that everything I said was, technically, true. A complex mix of emotions flickered in Clara's eyes. Annoyance, frustration, and even a spark of new curiosity. The Empress recovered the fastest. She narrowed her eyes, studying me as if for the first time. So, what you're saying is the 3 of us were just your clients? Her voice was laced with danger. No. I shook my head. Just when they thought I was about to apologize or back down, I smiled. You were. I took out my phone, lit up the screen, and pulled up my Venmo QR code. As of tonight, you're not even clients anymore. The free trial period has officially ended. I held my phone up to them as if presenting a priceless artifact. I, Jack Carter, Campus Premium Service Provider, am now officially open for business. My time is billed by the minute. My services will be auctioned by the project. Want a 128-degree latte? Fine. Send me your request and your offer. Need someone to save you the best seat in the library? Fine. Send me your request and your offer. Want the only meditation platform that understands your physiology? Same deal. Send me your request and your offer. Highest bidder wins. My services are unique. Therefore, they're also expensive. I looked at their 3 astonished faces, the smile on my own growing wider. Now, you may begin bidding for my remaining 2 hours tonight. With that, I stopped looking at any of them. I turned my back, and in the dead silence of the entire quad, under the weight of dozens of stunned, awestruck, and utterly baffled stares, I walked away. I didn't look back, but I could imagine the scene I left behind. Those 3 goddesses so used to my service were probably undergoing a seismic restructuring of their worldview. They might be angry, they might be dismissive, but deep down, they had to understand. The rules of the game had changed. The moment they started competing over me, they had already lost. They couldn't quit me. Not me, the person, but the service I provided, that feeling of being completely understood, of being cared for with absolute, obsessive precision. It was a drug more addictive than love itself. My name is Jack Carter. I was born with a silver tongue. But as of tonight, I am no longer a simp. I am the most expensive luxury good on this campus. End.